Two better. Today on Duke by the River, we beat NYCFC. We're going to recap that match. We're going to look ahead this upcoming Saturday. It's alumni night, and we are bringing in the Club De Foot Montreal. I got to get used to that one. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of Duke by the River. Let's get this started, guys. And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Duke by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union, brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Welcome on in. We're putting in twice a week, 2 pods in 1 week. You're getting a 2-for-1 deal here, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm excited to get to it, guys. It's a wild week, but we love covering the Union for you guys. And let me introduce to you guys my experts and dupers. Ladies and gentlemen, first up, please welcome my man, Justin Press. Serio's Bald Fan Club. The nicknames just never get old. Justin, what's going on, baby? How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's Friday. We get to talk about a Union win. We get to talk about another game tomorrow. You know, I'm always down. Soccer, you know, when in doubt, for me, soccer always brings up a mood after a tough week.
I 100% agree with you, and I don't think it's because of the time of day. We're a little early today. Usually we're doing a little night stuff, but it's evening time, as they say. And it's crazy because I feel like the win has brought this glow to Justin. This is the first time we've seen the light in Justin's apartment. It is great.
That's very true. Yeah, we got to get some more pods during the daytime so we can make sure Justin's okay.
And, of course, myself, I'm always in a dungeon surrounded by Eagles midnight green. So there you go.
Hey, that's fair enough. I got this light next to me on this side. It's glowing. Yeah.
Glowing on the beautiful scarves, the array of scarves you do have, my friend. And, of course, ladies and gentlemen, my man, Tim Lovinguth, ladies and gentlemen, who gave a great article, by the way, Tim. I read that right before the pod. I loved it.
Yeah. It's a good one. So go check it out. It's sort of all about the Union this past week after Club America. I know the club and the fans were feeling kind of down this past week, and you know, a win against NYCFC helps, and getting Miro Montero back helps. And yeah, I know it's Jay Sugarman, so you're not really sure if you can take him at his word, but he said that this club might compete for some silverware in the next few years. You know, take it with a grain of salt, but we'll talk about all this and more here.
Absolutely. Zach, what's going on? We got Zach in the building. How you doing, my man? Welcome on in. Another episode of Duke by the River for you, my friend. Before we move forward, ladies and gentlemen, please do not forget, if you are watching this live either on El Parcero Philly's YouTube channel, and we're on PSN tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We are on Philly Sports Network. Make sure to like the lives and subscribe to both channels. Truly mean the world to us. And, of course, you can find Duke by the River wherever you stream podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. And, of course, we are on PSN Radio. And you can find all of your favorite Philly sports podcasts on PSN Radio. Before we move forward into the match review, match preview, I wanted to give a little tidbit news for our Philadelphia Union. It was announced today that your goalkeeper, this man is absolutely, I don't even know what else to say about him. But Andre Blake is going to his third All-Star game. It was the news was announced today. But it was weird because Tim and I were talking about before this pod. You watched the video where Jim's announcing it to the squad that Andre is going to his All-Star game. It looked like they were watching some Club America tape there. So we don't know when they finally exactly found out. But regardless, this is definitely awesome to hear. Tim, man, I don't take these for granted because it exemplifies the greatness that is Andre Blake, man. But you know, how are you feeling about Andre going to another All-Star? He's going to LA. Yeah,
he's going, and I mean, we'll see how all that goes. You know, he's played pretty much every game except for when he was with Jamaica. So I know him and Kai Wagner too, because Kai Wagner's going as well.
Yes, sir.
They'll be pretty tired. So I don't know, as a person who wants the Union to do well, I'm kind of hoping that they maybe, only play like 20, 30 minutes in this type of game. And everyone wants Matt Turner to be the starter anyways for MLS in the All-Star game, which, you know what, it is what it is. But yeah, no, Andre Blake, this is his third time going to the All-Star game. It's a, club record for the Union. So yeah, I mean, it kind of is solidifying more and more just the type of player that he is. Now most All-Star appearances, like I just said, and yeah, like for a player that I kind of always forget about when I'm talking about lineups, just because I'm like, yeah, he's there. He's always there. We don't have to talk about him. He makes the spectacular saves. Sometimes he has a little bit of trouble with the easier ones, but he hasn't had that problem for a few years now, I'd say. Just an incredible goalkeeper and another incredible achievement for him.
Absolutely. And honestly, Tim, it does feel like we are in a good era of goalkeeping in the MLS right now.
Yeah.
When you're talking about Andre, talking about Matt, you talk about Pedro, they're all great. Honestly, I'm definitely a homer. You guys know I'm definitely a homer, and I'm always at Andre Blake to the end of his career. But it's definitely a good era for goalkeeping. Justin, what I wanted to ask you, you're very well in tune with the league. Do you feel like there were any snubs on this strong Union squad?
I mean, considering the All-Star roster, the only player I think maybe got snubbed, and I would say probably just because it's not really a flashy position, I'm going to say Leon. I mean,
I'm right there with you.
I mean, I think listen, he doesn't have goals, doesn't have assists, but what he does bring is just a relentless hustle. Guy who can play the 6, who is literally all over the field, makes great tackles, is pretty good at bringing the ball up. It definitely brings a lot to the offense. And again, it's one of those, the stats aren't sexy. And with the All-Star game, it's again, I don't take too much stock into it because, Atlanta fans and Orlando fans, stuffed the ballots, and I was surprised there weren't more Orlando players or more how I fan voting. I think at some point just becomes a bit silly, and I really don't think there should be fan voting. I think it should be, based on your peers and stuff. But that's a own separate rant we could go into. But listen, it is what it is with this team. The team's never been built on a superstar. It's been built on a bunch of very good players who work well together. Their stats aren't going to be sexy, but the team, again, last few years have shown when you have a good collective unit, you can, again, look at New England. They spent money on Buxa and Heel and Bo, but if you just had one of those and say a really bad team, they're not automatically making that team 10 times better.
Right.
It's the collective group that makes that team better. And it's the same way with the Union. The Union are collectively a great team.
Yeah. It's
just individually you're looking and going, well, outside of Andre, no one really stands out. But hey, am I happy he made it? Yeah. Does it prove my point that right now Andre is arguably a top 5 goalie and has been in this league almost since he came into this league?
Yes. Sir. Absolutely. I agree with you there. And it's definitely not a sexy name to put in there, but I can't think of a tougher midfielder than him. And it's a good point. Will you think Elliott or Glesnes will ever make it by our boy?
No, I think unfortunately, I think in terms of center back players, there are sexier names. The two that really come to mind for me would be Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robinson, just off the top of my head. There's a lot. There's Reyes for Orlando has had a pretty good season. I'm not usually an Andrew Farrell fan. I think he's kind of been okay over the years, but he's having a pretty good year. There's a good amount of center backs that are coming into this league, that you can make. You can make a case that Elliott or Glesnes could, but I just think, like you said, there nothing outside of Glesnes launching a 35-yard bomb. There's not a whole lot that's going to separate him from the pack. Yeah, unless it's a skills competition. I love both of them. I love having them on the team. They're a great pairing. I just think I'd be surprised if either of them made it.
And to that point, it's kind of a shame there was no All-Star game last year because Mark McKenzie would have been a starter.
Oh yeah,
on that team. Like
and Brendan.
Yeah, I mean maybe I don't know if
Maybe.
Brendan would have started. He would have been there.
Yes.
But yeah, there would have been another year with 2 Union players at the All-Star game, which has only happened twice before, back in 2016 and 2012. So got Andre and Kai there this year. So let's keep the trend going. Yeah.
Yes, sir. This is why we have Tim pulling that little fact there out of the bag. I like that, Tim. Very nice, my man.
2016, Andre was there with Keegan Rosenberry. Shouts.
Wasn't that also the year that Keegan made the U.S. camp?
Yeah. That was his rookie year.
Throwback. Flashback Friday, because it is Friday, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
It is Friday. So, all right, let's move on, guys. Let's get right into it. Obviously, we had a match in the middle of the week here, a home match against NYCFC, and I'll tell you what, I was a little worried, guys, going down. I'm heading down 322 from Jersey into Chester, and all I'm seeing is just gray skies, and it looks like it's about to downpour. But we got really lucky. I think it rained for the first 5 minutes of the match, and then it was perfect. It was like clear skies.
I would say like maybe a 5 minute, like in the middle of the first half, it rained.
Oh, nice. That's
but like
Yes,
it felt nice. It was literally like a
exactly.
5 minute downpour, and that was it.
It was refreshing. It was refreshing. That's exactly the word there. But no, we got underway in this match. Obviously, listen, we at this point in 2021, we know what New York or NYCFC and the Philadelphia Union, we know what those matches are, right? Physical. It's going to be a little chippy here and there. There's definitely some bad blood between both these teams. And to be honest, in the start of this match, I feel like NYCFC started off a little bit quicker with the chances. There were a couple sloppy plays here and there from the Union, but it was still 0-0. In the second half, I felt like the Union took the right first step to kind of take this match. They looked like the stronger team to start it off, and of course, it paid off in the 67th minute. Kai Wagner, guys, on the weak foot, not the lefty. It was the righty, and it was a beautiful cross. Ali found the ball, and he put it right in the perfect spot. And really, that was the difference. The NYCFC had a couple of chances at the end and throughout the next 20 minutes, but the Union walked away with 3 points, a big 3 points, because I remind you that has put them in. They're in the thick of it as far as second place, because obviously, I think at this point, fine, New England can have it. That's fine.
Yeah, it's theirs to lose at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what? We'll take second place, but the Union are definitely in the thick of it. Nashville is definitely doing their thing, but right now we are tied with NYCFC and Orlando, who of course we just beat NYCFC. But regardless of all of that, Justin, I want to start with you. Watching the match on Wednesday, obviously I was with you guys. I was at the in the Rivers End, but I felt like the team just were relentless, and it looked like 2020 Philadelphia Union soccer. What did you see? How did you feel about the energy and the effort and the relentlessness that you saw from the Union on the night?
It felt like a good energy, and I'm gonna first, but before I get started here, I'm gonna call out our boy Christian. You come for the drip king, you best not miss. Jim had the strategy on point, which was to try to limit Castellanos. I mean, there was a lot of 1-2 chances with him and Medina, and they try. And then one of the biggest things, and I said it to Tim for a lot of the first half, was they really are not using this left-hand side. Yeah. They're going with Tinnerholm, and they're having him constantly go up the wing, and it really wasn't working. Like, they had the trailer, but again, what I've said all year, the Union defense has stayed solid. There's never been a question of our defense being poor. It's our offense not scoring a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, again, the team, despite the fact that that NYCFC the first time around figured out the diamond, I think the diamond actually frustrated them, because the only real chances they had were on the counter. I mean, you looked at the stats, and in the first half, Tim and I looked, it was 62-38 in terms of percentage, and we're like, and my friend Sean just goes, "Wow, that seems low," and Tim just turned around and goes, "Well, that's actually high for the Union." Like, like the stat number, the possession numbers indicate we don't possess the ball much, which is kind of how they want to play. And the defense played as a collective unit. I will say that I really, outside of Castellanos missing the post by this much,
Mm-hmm.
nothing really concerned me to the point where I was like, oh my God, they're really threatening. And again, like good collective game. You had, and again, Jamiro coming in was nice. That it was nice to see him come back on Ali's goal. I mean, my Lord, the man had so much time and space. He could have set up a grill, set up a George Foreman grill, and started flipping burgers out there, because he found, I think he ran from at least like 15 yards away, had a lot of momentum, and leans down into that right in between the center backs, and bam, like that was a perfect header right inside that near post.
Yes, sir.
And and I said, like, that's what this team, for all we talk about, oh, Ali should get a break. He's 34. He's like, he's still a big part of this team. He's still the heart of this team. He's still a reason why he's the captain. And I don't think anyone has questioned that. And what he brings to this team is just a lot of heart. And it honestly was an all around pretty good performance. The biggest thing from me was, I always say that the game is going to depend on how El Brujo, which side of the line, the very thin line that he operates on, and he did everything perfectly. I mean, there was one tackle in mind. We talked about this yesterday. We talked about it during the game, and we talked about it just before we came on. That tackle on, I believe it was Medina, it was a 1-2. And he probably had Andre beat just outside, or at least creating a good chance. And Brujo just makes a great tackle. I mean, inch perfect tackle. Another touch, Medina's around him, and he probably takes him down. I don't doubt that. And that was the type of game that Brujo had. His tackles, the best I've seen him. He was making a lot of good possession. He was bringing the ball up. He actually had some good dribbling, which for him, his touches always can kind of be heavy, and that's kind of the part of his game as a 6 he's had to work on. But he had a really good game, and I think, again, the offense, we could have had a few more chances, because they did have chances. But hey, like, this team is Jim said it. This team is a defensive team. Obviously, could we use more scoring? Yeah, but you know what? This team played well, and there was a different energy. But first of all, 15,000 fans on a midweek game was impressive. I don't think I've ever seen that kind of a crowd for a midweek game, but it just felt that energy was the energy was back in the stadium. Like, it fit a few games where, like, they had drawn. Like, it felt like there was kind of listlessness in the stands, but I don't think I've heard the stadium as loud as it was probably the loudest all season, if I'm going to be honest.
It was definitely a great crowd here. Hassan, we got a big Liam admirer here. That's what's up, man. But Liam, I honestly don't know where Liam is tonight. I don't know where Liam is tonight, but I do appreciate you checking on in Philly Sports Network here. But yeah, we are running a podcast currently. This is the Philadelphia podcast for Philly Sports Network. So you are more than welcome to hang out and talk some Union soccer with us. But Tim, to keep it moving here, we got the news right before the match that Miro was going to be in the 18. And I'll be honest with you, it kind of came out of nowhere. I did not expect that news to kind of come, but kind of just like, what was the impact by Jamiro in the second half, and going forward in the season here?
Yeah, I think I'll kind of start off by saying I had expected an announcement on Jamiro from the Union. I thought it would be a transfer, or that he just wasn't coming back. And to see, an hour or so before a match that not only is he coming back, but that there's no imminent transfer as of yet. I know everything is still kind of in motion, so he could find another team if he wants to leave. But right now, it seems like he wants to stay. And even after the game, I'll talk about his play in a minute, but after the game, he said, he's happy to be here, and that his family were able to get visas to come over.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing that Jonathan Tannenwald confirmed, and that was I think that's why he wasn't forcing the move. He was like, I want to be close to my family. Now his family's here. He's like, he loves the city, and you know what? I don't blame him for wanting to be close to his family. Now his family's here, and I think he's okay. Listen, let's get back to what I do.
Yeah, and I think we saw that. He came on in, I believe, the 63rd minute right before the goal. And while he wasn't directly, he didn't directly impact the goal, his movement on the field, it looked like he didn't miss a beat. He was able to combine well with Powell down the right side a little bit. And then obviously with Gazdag, there was only a handful of times that those two even really played together. So I think they're still building that chemistry. But yeah, no, I think his impact moving forward it's going to be huge. We've said it before on the podcast, and many others have said it. He's kind of been maybe not the heart and soul of the midfield, but he's what makes it tick. Whereas Ali might be the heart and soul of the team, but if Miro is in the midfield, it makes them, have this extra step, this extra ability to press and move the ball forward in possession, things like that, which the Union don't do much, which we talked about. So I think his impact is going to be huge, especially for this team as they now push to get further up the Eastern Conference standings. And we get to think about the second leg of CCL now with Miro. I think that changes the game a whole lot. I saw a lot of fans complaining, oh, why didn't he come back? A game before this, he could have played down in Mexico. He was actually suspended for that game regardless. So if he was with the team, he wouldn't have been able to play anyways. So now it's, all full steam ahead. Miro Montero is back on this team. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised to see him starting on Saturday in the left shoulder midfield position. That's where I would pencil him in.
But I will say this. I absolutely love the reaction from the fans when he came onto the pitch. You definitely heard a little bit of a roar. I don't know if it was for me personally, because I absolutely went wild when I saw Miro coming out on the pitch. But it's definitely special. And you mentioned it, Tim. Like, we do need Miro going forward. And yeah, it would have been nice to have him against Club America. But we'll have him when they come back here in September. We'll see if that does make a difference. Play the rest of the season out. Get some hardware, and then at the end of the season, we could talk about a potential transfer. But the most important part is his family is here, and for sure, we will definitely take that.
That's now if he wants to as well. Now, if his family is able to stay, I believe he has another year on his contract. I'd have to look it up and double check. But
is that a club option?
It might have been the club option part of it, yeah. But still, I mean, if they, everything is smoothed over now with what happened and his family's able to stay with him, maybe he would want to stay for that other year. That's just me hoping and reaching. But yeah, if he says everything is good now, let's get it. Let's get that hardware, that silverware.
Absolutely. Son, I appreciate you tuning on in, but we are a Philadelphia Union podcast. So if you got some questions about the Union or soccer in general, we might answer some general soccer questions, but we're just not going to talk about rugby or football there. Big Play Slay, what's going on, my man? My man is tuning into some Union coverage here. I love it. I definitely love it. Justin, we at one point in the second half, we had the Jamaican trifecta that I was here for, and I want to highlight one man because he deserves it. Alvis Powell. Look, there was a couple instances where he lost the ball to the sideline, but what I will say, the effort. My man is strong as well. He is strong. Kind of want to talk about the impact of Alvis Powell in the match, man, in replacing Mbaizo.
Honestly, he had a phenomenal game. I there were several points during the game. I was talking with Tim, and I'm just like, do we actually have a competition? Because you have two players who are, I would say, pretty diametrically opposed in terms of what their strengths are. I mean, Alvis 100% is the better defender. There is no question about that. I mean, he didn't get up as much. I mean, he did get up a little bit, so I wouldn't say he's necessarily weak on that front. He's decent on that front. But, I mean, Mbaizo, I love Mbaizo, but he's great offensively. But he leaves a lot to be desired defensively.
Yeah.
And Alvis, I mean, the hustle. My Lord, he was actually quicker than I was expecting. Like I know he's a veteran. He's been around the league a while. He was a big part of the Portland Timbers MLS Cup winning side. He's been he's only 28, 29. He's been around the league but he's an established veteran. He's a guy that is going to give you good minutes. And I think it's going to make the case for a bit more of a competition, at least I would think so. But yeah, the biggest thing that I love from him was he was timing his slide tackles perfectly. He was one of the biggest things was, riding the ball out for a goal kick. I mean, he was stood still, shouldering, people off the ball, and I mean, it was perfect. And he went the ground when he needed to. He knew inside the box you stay on your feet, but when it was outside the box, man, he was going for those tackles and he was timing them pretty well.
He did,
and overall, he had a great performance. He was probably one of the probably standout players for me in that game. And again, I think the entire defense had a great game, but Alves definitely had a pretty good game.
To me, he was man of the match. I know El Brujo probably had shouts from a lot of people to be man of the match, but Powell coming in after not playing for a very long time and playing the way he did at right back in a pivotal position against an NYCFC team that was sort of looked determined to go down that side. It seemed like it, at least in the second half. He was man of the match for me.
Absolutely. I love the performance. The last bit, a tidbit I want to talk about the match before we head into our impact preview. We had a special guest that caught the eyes of not just Philadelphia, not just MLS fans, but nationwide, all sports fans. Our 5% owner, Kevin Durant, was in the building. He legit was in the building watching Union soccer. I literally saw him.
Is that 5 or 10% now? Did he?
It's 10.
At this point, make it 50. All right, make it 50.
Don't do that to Richie Graham, man. Richie Graham was there too.
I think what Richie was there. Richie Graham, Richie Leibowitz, Jay was there. They all poured me a beer. That was fun.
Yeah.
Jay, what was Jay wearing, by the way? So let's go on. Let's get to that for a second. Kevin Durant before the match walks over to the Sons of Ben tailgate to kind of say his hellos and have a couple words with the fans. But then Jay Sugarman, in the best Adam Booth impersonation, had some words with the fans and did state, and I quote, "We will win an MLS Cup within the next 5 seasons." Obviously, you hear that as a Union fan, you're like, "Oh, really? Oh, really? How are we gonna do that, right?" So, Tim, what do you take away from Sugarman's kind of words he said?
It's put up or shut up time. This is what the 12th season of this team. Everyone's always, asked or clamored for him to spend money. And it's always been, bargain players, academy players, which are great. Our team is built off that right now. And as we always say, the team is the star. We don't have star players, at least right now. But if Sugarman says MLS Cup within the next 5 years, then he's going to have to pay some money for some sort of player. For me, my money would go to a striker, a real striker who can bag goals. I know Zach always is on beating that drum, but he's not here tonight, so I'll do it for him. If Sugarman shells out, $3 to $5 million for a striker for this Union team, then yes, it does put them over the top, and I think it will make them top in the East and compete for MLS Cup. Obviously, that's not going to happen this year, at least with that type of signing, because it can't happen now. But if he says in the next 5 years, then I expect to see more big money signings. They don't have to be huge names. They can be some of the players that we see, maybe like a Nashville get right now, because they've been spending a little bit more money on some players. I wouldn't expect to see money being spent like Cincinnati or Atlanta. It hasn't worked out for them. So I wouldn't expect that, but it has to be that next level, and that next level is a $3 to $5 million player. And I think until that type of player comes in, then his words just are words. It's not an action. So it's time for him to put up or to stop talking.
I think it's clear. You got to poach a big name or a big player, a good player.
Yeah,
Liga MX. Nashville got Lobo. I see Columbus getting Zella Rayan. It's clear.
Real quick,
we gotta coach from. Go ahead, man.
Real quick though, Lobo for Nashville. They're not using him, so it's either Nashville give us Lobo because they've been benching him for CJ Sapong, or they just send us back CJ Sapong. He's not a $5 million player, but he's scoring goals right now.
Justin, Tommy's got a question for you.
I can tell you he's playing like crap. Like, for all that money, he is literally not even remotely getting you any kind of return on investment. And this is exactly what I've been saying to all the Union fans who say we need that massive money spending. Do you want to be Cincinnati, who has done that year after year since they entered the league and has done diddly and might be in line for another wooden spoon? So this is it. So as Tim said, I was actually there when Jay said that. By the way, Jay, you really did need a megaphone or something because he's a very soft-spoken man.
Yeah.
I mean, I was standing pretty close, and I could barely hear him. I also joked at this point. We were like, I was like, "How can you pave the parking lots first, and then also sign a player? Like, can we do both things? Both things would be great." But no, I agree with Tim, and I've said this that spending $3 to $5 million is not out of the Union's price range. In fact, I think the way they spending one player and spending $4 million on a bona fide striker, and then supplementing your roster with several Brujos and Leons and guys that you're getting for a reasonable rate. That's not a bad thing. You can build off of a team with a bona fide goal scorer, and $3 to $5 million. I mean, heck, the Union spent at least $4 million in the last 2 years on big transfers alone, and that's Jamiro and Gazdag.
Yeah,
and so far both of them are paying off. And I think that you look at it, and I just go, like Jay says this, I agree with Tim. It's time to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
I understand we're not spending $10 million, and I don't care about that. Give me a $3 to $5 million striker that's going to put balls in the back of the net, and then maybe we could flip for even more. I want that type of player. That's the type of player that the Union would thrive on.
Yes, sir. One day, Jay's going to shell out that checkbook, and he's going to spend money on a big player.
And listen, if it's not even Jay, if Jay's saying this and the money's coming from Richie Graham or Kevin Durant, do it. Just do it, guys. Listen, forget about Jay. Just get his approval. Be like, yo, Jay, we're going to get this guy. Kevin, if you're listening right now, Kevin Durant, this is for you.
Yeah, they get your buddy H1.
You just have to.
Sure he
you just have to
make Barca.
Yes, make Jay Sugarman think he's cool, and then you just convince him to buy someone.
I mean, is Jay Sugarman really cool?
You got to convince him. You got to convince him. That Sons of Ben jersey, that old school Sons of Ben jersey. I think that's what he's wearing.
That's first year. So
I believe it was either that or 2012 because I think that's why I had the 12 on.
I think I wonder if I still have mine. I have to look at my closet see if I still have mine. I don't know if I do.
My man dug that from whatever closet he found.
He's I know I have a shirt of the team. Well, not even the team, of the fans that I own. That's it.
That's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. All right, so listen, we will handle that money stuff and that DP and those big player names later on down the road. We still have business at hand, and the way NYCFC ended, let's get this momentum going, right? So this upcoming tomorrow, actually, it is going to be alumni game. We are going to be hosting, and I want to apologize first to the Montreal fan base because I may confuse the Club De Foot Montreal with the Montreal Impact. I'm still used to the Montreal Impact. So, ladies and gentlemen, of course, to preview the match this upcoming Saturday against Club De Foot, we will be having on, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Eve Powell. Eve, how are you?
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing fantastic on a very hot Friday. How are you?
We're great as well. It's a little. We've actually had a little rain here in the Philadelphia area the past couple of days. Actually, during our match Wednesday against NYCFC, we actually had some rain. So we're definitely getting over that. But we really appreciate you coming on here on short notice as well.
Well, no, I'm more than grateful to be here, and I'm really excited to talk about tomorrow's game with all of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Eve, to start off, as we always do here when we have guests on, we're very polite first off, but we want to ask you, who the hell is Eve?
Good question.
Well, so kind of, who you are, what kind of work you've been doing, especially for the impact. Or see, I already started.
It's okay. It's hard.
That's one.
That's one.
Yeah, no worries. We won't make like you take a drink or anything every time. So, my name is Eve Powell, obviously. I'm not originally from Montreal, but I have lived in Montreal the past few years, and I've been following the former Montreal Impact, now known as CF Montreal, since about 2015. And I'm a co-host on a project called The Ball is Round with 3 other gentlemen, and we cover CF Montreal, MLS, Canadian soccer, and any interesting soccer events around the world.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I try to keep it succinct.
Wait, so were you there for Drogba?
Not present in Montreal, but I was following the team by that point.
Okay.
Speaking of spending big money, guys, that's pretty cool.
that was probably the coolest era so far to date.
I think I speak for a lot of Union fans. We would have loved to see a caliber of Drogba here in Chester, but we have Bedoya. We have.
No, I would take it.
Honestly,
come on, I would take it a Nacho Piatti.
Nacho Piatti.
Nacho.
Back when he's like 50 years old on one leg, and I'll take him. No, but the way Philadelphia do things, I totally respect it, to be honest. It's not like the most attractive names in football, but I totally respect it because damn if it's not a successful project.
Right.
It's been good so far. The one thing, Eve, I don't know if you know about Philly sports fans, we are never content unless we are hoisting a trophy. So we'll never be happy here in Philly until we do that. But I wanted to ask you about this project you've been doing. The Ball is Round. Like, what is how long you guys have been doing it, and like how has that pod been going for you guys?
So the podcast itself existed for several years with the 2 main co-hosts, Paul and Hattie, and it went through its own rebrand actually in the winter. And I think we might have given some bad ideas to the team, and became The Ball is Round. And myself and our 4th co-host, Sam Savvy, joined around that time. And so the podcast itself has existed for several years. In this particular form, it's existed since about December of 2020. And then I've been part of the project since late January 2021. Very
nice. Very nice. Well, of course, we have you here. We, of course, are going to ask about your thoughts on the whole club rebrand.
So personally, as a supporter, didn't think a rebrand was totally necessary, and I particularly don't think this was the right year to do it if there was a justified reason behind it, just because it had already been a really tough year for Canadian MLS fans because of course the club had not been able really to play at home, and certainly not with supporters. So it kind of made a difficult situation when you felt far from the club, like even worse. So myself, I'm not necessarily a fan of it. I'm not against anyone, though, who is a fan of it. And there's lots of people who are willing to turn the page, and they think this might mean bigger and better things for Montreal. They think this might translate to perhaps a bigger investment in the team itself and the players. And we'll see if that comes to fruition for sure. But it's definitely been a very divisive event in the Montreal soccer community, to say the least.
Divisive might be a polite way of saying it has been a colossal PR nightmare, and that the cash grab they thought was going to happen definitely did not get them the love that they not that the Saputos were loved by any stretch of the imagination, from what I've heard from a few friends who are Montreal fans.
It depends, because most people are willing to say without Joey Saputo there would be no Montreal Impact, therefore no CF Montreal. So a lot of people are willing to give him that level of allegiance. I will say I have a sneaking suspicion the club made a massive amount in sales of Impact gear.
Yeah.
this year. And actually, I have seen quite a few CF Montreal jerseys at the stadium since Montreal has come back to play. So it really is like a split.
Okay. Let me ask you, because we have had we had a Chicago Fire. I guess he's a front of MLS podcast, but he's a Chicago Fire fan. We talked to him about the rebrand down there, and kind of as a fan, you don't really understand why do you think some of these MLS clubs are trying to do these ridiculous rebrands?
I think maybe Montreal, or not Montreal, but MLS in general, we have lots of teams who go by these names, right? We have the San Jose Earthquakes, we have the Seattle Sounders, the Houston Dynamo, and so on and so forth. And of course, MLS does get looked down upon from outside, right?
Right.
As not as much of a league. And so it's kind of easy for people abroad to snub a team when they have, say, not a quote unquote serious footballing name. So I don't know if that's part of it. And I know that was a big factor, was to get more international visibility and credibility from the Montreal side. I don't know really if that translates, because I still don't think anybody's like going around calling MLS legit business since we've had a couple of rebrands, and of course we did see the Crew go back on theirs. Yeah. and Chicago too. Yeah. As far as the logo, I don't know. I can't speak to that one, man.
Yeah, that one's rough. And I think I've talked about we've kind of all talked about the reason for these rebrands, and the idea that this league is trying to, with the football club this and football club that,
United,
they're trying to get on this international thing. But the thing about that I've heard from people overseas is they relate more to the weirder names, like the Earthquakes. It's not going to make a lot of sense to to someone in Europe. You're like, what's in they Earthquakes? Oh, that's an interesting name.
Or where did that come from?
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, what does that mean? And I think the league, and I could go on and on about single entity and the massive colossal failure that is, because there's not a lot of parity in this league whatsoever. No. But I think this league definitely gets a bit of a wrong idea that a global brand, which I don't know how global an American league can be. But it's, this rebrand, if you're rebranding to something that they have in their backyard, it's not really going to stand out to them. And why would they waste additional time and resources to watch that league?
Exactly. I'm trying to be kind about it, but it's hard to change mentalities, I think. Yeah. And it takes a while. And the time difference is really hard for people overseas too. One of our co-hosts is actually in Ireland right now. He's struggling.
That is pretty cool.
See, we have a union friend who is a reporter in Tokyo. So when he watches games, it's the morning. So he's just like, wow, I have my coffee while I'm watching the game.
Yeah.
That is absolute dedication. PJ, it's tough because we're obviously in the Philadelphia area, so we don't see a lot of, you even see Toronto FC or Whitecap fans. So we're lucky. We're blessed to have Eve here for sure.
We do exist.
They do exist. They do exist.
Just en français most of the time.
Eve, I will say I don't mind the name changes so much. I think the logos is kind of like what Justin was saying. That's really what bothers me, because they're not inspiring. And some of these logos these new logos lack some character, and I don't know what the direction is with that. So it's definitely interesting, but hopefully it does exactly mean some success on the pitch for you guys. And I kind of want to direct our direction to that point. So obviously with you guys, I think the biggest change, obviously, you guys lost Titi. You lost Titi Henry, and that kind of came out of nowhere as well. I kind of wanted to figure out what has the change been without Titi there, and how Montreal has been looking this season.
So one of the good parts about Wilfred Nancy taking over for Thierry Henry was that he had already been assistant coach last year under Thierry Henry, plus under the slew of previous coaches Montreal has had. He was there for Mauro Biello, Remy Gard, Wilmer Cabrera's cameo in Montreal.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's actually, for real. A lot of us try to. But Wilfried Nancy has been with the organization in some capacity or another, whether it was with the first team or with the academy, since about 2011. So he knows the team really inside and out, which is great. And I think one thing he's got going for him that perhaps Thierry Henry did not is that he seems to be a bit more of a player's coach. He talks a lot about his meetings with the players and about his discussions, and does seem to be able to build that kind of rapport, even though he doesn't have the name pull that did certainly attract a few of our signings in the offseason to Montreal. So that is it's a change in that, he, of course, is bringing his own flair to the tactic. However, it is still a pretty similar tactic to what Thierry Henry was trying to implement last season.
Okay. So not much changes have been to like the style of play of Montreal, then you're saying?
Not a whole lot, no. We are seeing a little bit more flexibility as the season's going on. Initially, it's been a 3-5-2 the entire season. So spoiler alert, you're probably going to see a 3-5-2 tomorrow, even with Rudy Camacho suspended. And initially, they were really, really, really dependent on the wing backs in the early season. However, the left wing back in particular has not been up to snuff. Struggling really hard to find a mainstay player who can kind of claim the starting position and who can deliver on both the offensive and defensive aspect of it. So I think now in the past, perhaps 4 or 5 matches, we've seen a lot more flexibility from Wilfried Nancy in using those middle players like a Victor Wanyama to break up some lines, or a Georgi Mihailovic to carry the ball forwards and perhaps deliver it or spray it out to a wingback who makes his way forward. Mm-hmm. So we are seeing a bit more tactical flexibility in the sense of how the players move out of the back, although they are insisting pretty strongly on building out of the back still, as risky as that can be. But we are seeing, as far as going forward, a bit more flexibility as the season's going on, which is a relief, I think, to most Montreal fans.
Eve, don't worry, because Jim never changes the tactics. At least it'll be the 4-4
or the lineup,
or the lineup. Yeah. But we're in the same boat there for sure.
Our lineup has to change because we keep getting players suspended or injured.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't the last time we faced the Impact? Wasn't that a Kyoto red card?
Oh,
yeah.
Right after he scores the goal,
elbow to the head or whatever.
He scored
like square in the head,
and he scored earlier in the match off like
he had a
5 minutes
great
earlier.
goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I feel like we must have hit our red card allotment for a little while, because I think we had gone a really long time without any, and then all of a sudden got like 3 back.
Oh my God. It's like having El Brujo everywhere.
A little bit. Well, yeah, and then there was that crazy match with Atlanta where there were 2 red cards in the match.
Well, that's not surprising.
But that's over.
All right, I want to direct the attention a little bit to our side here with our Philadelphia Union. So I want to start with you, Justin. Look, the NYCFC match, it felt like 2020. It felt like the team that won the Supporter Shield. We talked about it earlier. The energy, the relentlessness, it was there. Do you think that's what it took to kind of get the ball rolling? Listen, you get another win here. You're in first place, or you're in second place again.
Yeah, I think that. I think there was this idea that they were kind of, the excuse was, oh, well, they're being a little stagnant because they have CCL. And listen, we've talked about this. We didn't expect going down there and winning. 2-0 was a pretty decent result, all things, compared. But I think there was this idea okay, you have another month until the second leg. You need to focus on the league. You're not really in danger of slipping out of the playoff spots, because if you look at the behind them, once you get to 7 and then you go to 8, once you're outside the playoff spot, there's at least a bit of a gap between 7 and 8. So it's basically the teams are starting to separate themselves, and we're getting into that stretch of the season where this is where teams make their push. Yeah. And with the way that the Union schedule is set up, I really think this stretch of games is crucial to kind of getting back into the swing of things. And listen, the NYCFC win was nice. It was something that you go back to what you're expecting. And as much as I'm confident in this game, we've seen this team get into trap games, and with a 3-5-2, that's been a bit of formation that teams have used against the Union to try to break this diamond. And also the way Montreal has been playing is kind of, hot, cold as they've been playing. This feels like a trap game, which is why I'm not concerned, but you know how it can be with coming off of a good result against a great team and then having a poor result against a decent team, but not as good as I'm just concerned that there's going to be a bit of a let-off.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. I want to ask you, Tim,
Yeah.
A little bit, because Justin kind of said it already. We know Jim doesn't like to rotate the lineup a little bit, but this is the second match in a week. Number one, do you see a little squad rotation? And number two, can we get Davo? Can we get some Davo this weekend?
To be honest, I think Jim won't rotate too much because it's Jim Curtin. But I do see. I still think there will be two changes, and I think one of them is because Miro Montero is back, and he's a starter. I mean, you can't just have him come off the bench every game the way he did against NYC. And I think if he's in the match from the start, he kind of dictates the Union's press. And if what Eve said comes true, and Montreal try to play out of the back, his ability to press up high in the field could be vital. So I see him actually coming in for Leon Flock, and Flock gets a break. I know he probably doesn't need it because he's usually the one that runs the most for the Union every game. But yeah, he probably needs a little bit there. And then the only other change I see is I see Jim going back to his normal back line, even though Eve Powell did amazing in his defensive work is much better than Bizo. I think because Bizo is Jim's guy and he got the new contract and hopefully his tooth is okay.
Tim, the good news is it was a fake tooth he lost.
Oh, it was a fake tooth? I missed that.
That makes a lot of sense because the contact on the tooth was really not that severe, but it went flying.
But I see Bizo coming back and starting at right back, which, to Justin's point, though, if it is a trap game, maybe you don't want him there because he's not very good defensively. But those are the only changes I see made, and I think the squad, the rest of it kind of picks itself at this point for me. And to your point about Davo, I hope so. I mean, they brought him in, right? He was with the team in Mexico.
Which that brings the point. Is Bueno in the country?
I don't know.
Davo we know is in the country.
These two summer signings, when will we actually get to see them play? That's the big question. But yeah, I think Davo is the one that's probably closer because he's actually been in the country and the visa issue was all squared away. So yeah, I hope he makes the bench. That would be fantastic.
I don't know what's going on with the situation in Venezuela, but yeah, let's get him here for sure, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner rather than later. Eve, let me ask you. So, what do you see the lineup looking like against us on Saturday?
So for Montreal,
yes.
So there's definitely going to be some change, or even in goalkeeper, it's not actually a sure shot because we had James Pantemis who had to go into COVID protocol, and Clément Diop recently agreed to a termination of his contract. That was earlier the week.
Okay.
So Sebastian Breza, a Canadian keeper who's been on loan from Bologna, has been filling in. He was unofficially occupying the third goalkeeper role up to date this season until Pantemis went into protocol. And we did recall one of the academy keepers from a loan in Canadian Premier League. Oh. So Pantemis today has just come back to training from COVID protocol. So the only thing is his performances weren't super encouraging. Normally he would be the de facto return to goalkeeper, but when he was given the chance to fill in for Diop, really hesitant with the ball at his feet. We saw a lot of flapping at set pieces. And as well, there were a few instances in that wild Cincinnati game where you could kind of look at him in the face and say, you could have made a significantly better decision there, sir. Then in central defense, the starter who hasn't missed a game unless it's been for suspension is Rudy Camacho. He got suspended for a second yellow card, which I thought was a real harsh yellow, but whatever. Who am I to judge PRO? So he'll be suspended, and we have to work with the 3-back defense, I assume, because I'd be shocked to see Wilfried to change it now. That means we're going to have probably either Joel Waterman or Zoran Basong slotting in there, which is not ideal. That was kind of the defense that was holding everything together well. Kiki Struna was not allowed to play due to quarantine rules, and Kamal Miller was a Gold Cup, so that's not ideal either. Okay, you're off to a really good start. Then midfield shouldn't be too wild. We'll have Victor Wanyama, of course. Emmanuel Maciel, who's from Argentina, has been starting next to him. However, his performances the past 2 matches weren't great. He was subbed at halftime versus Cincinnati. I would actually expect to see Sam Piet start next to him. Yeah, I expect that to be a change. I'd be shocked if Wilfried Nancy gave Emmanuel Maciel another shot at it, because there were 2 pretty dire performances about 4 days apart. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, up top will be a little bit of a question mark as well, because Mason Toye, who was the leading scorer and the starting striker, picked up a really bad shoulder injury versus New York Red Bulls. And yeah. Well, I officially, because they put Mason Toye out of commission for a while, so yeah. So up top, it'll be a question mark, because we have Sunusi Ibrahim, who's 18 years old, and he's been much more impactful off the bench. You can clearly tell, like, he's new to the country, new to the league. Right. He's adapting. He's not a starter yet. He's obviously got lots of potential, but when Nancy's given him a start, he's not been very effective. Bjorn Janssen, you might have, if you saw the penalty drama. Yes. He's infamous for the first one there. He's not been, for all he was touted to be, he's not lived up to it. And so his confidence is pretty much in the toilet, particularly after that scenario. And so lots of good news for you guys, okay?
Hey, you never know. You definitely never know here. Eve actually reminded me, Tim, I need to see Cory Burke start. Cory usually has good games against
Montreal. I was going to say, Cory Burke, one of his best goals was against Montreal.
He likes to score against Montreal and Chicago. So
random.
Those are his teams.
So random, but he usually plays really well against Montreal. So I need him to start there. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that. So the Saputos, they do own Bologna, right? They also own.
Joey Saputo owns Bologna. Yeah, it's just Joey.
Okay.
Really. Yeah.
So,
he owns both teams.
So I do have to ask, because obviously, not being far from New York, I do see City, and I do see what the Red Bulls organizations do to NYCFC and the Red Bull. Does Bologna treat Club De Foot kind of like that feeder club, or like that farm?
So we kind of had our first instance of it this season, actually. So last season, Montreal signed Louis Binks from the Tottenham Hotspur Academy, and quite young. I believe he was 18 at the time of the signing. Mm-hmm. And he had a really good season for us in 2020, all things considered, in 2020. And then spent most of this season injured, unfortunately. And because he'd had such a good season, partway through last year, actually, Bologna signed him. They swooped in and signed him.
Wow.
Yeah, and he returned to us on a loan. However, the loan wound up being terminated partway through the season. So Louis Binks is actually in Bologna right now. So that's kind of the first instance that I would say we've had of a quote-unquote feeder club. We've not had any academy players move over there. And we have had lots of loanees from Bologna. We've received lots of loan players, and several of them did sign permanently. Like we had Matteo Mancosu, who didn't work out very well, and we had Safir Taider, who did work out quite well. So it's been a little bit of a two-way street, I would say. But I still think Montreal fans were kind of rankled by the whole Binks thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. I did not know that, and I'm learning more about Montreal speaking to you, Eve. So I appreciate that. But let's get to the nitty gritty, guys. It is prediction time, and of course, we will start with our guest, Eve. What do you see happening tomorrow night, and what is your prediction?
So I think I laid it out pretty well for you guys in my lineup. I'm not super optimistic here, and the guys who listen to me on The Ball Is Round will know I am the reigning pessimist. So
so you're our Zach.
Yeah,
We replace Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. That works. I'm actually going to go for a 3-0 win for the Union.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
I will go wild.
Oof.
Tim, do you have that optimism?
I mean, I am usually the token optimist here. So, yes. In my article that I wrote on Philly Sports Network today, I did say that the Union would win 3-0 and kind of take the momentum that way. So there we go. We agree on that one. I do think the Union are going to score 3 goals. I'm not going to put any names on the goals. That doesn't usually end up well when I do that. So
just don't say the name.
Not saying any names. No names. Just 3 goals. They can be own goals. That's fine. I'll put it that
way. What about you, Justin?
God, it feels funny. Like I'm usually the resident quote unquote realist. It's the optimist, the less positive optimist of the 4 of us. I mean, while I said it might be a trap game, I think that usually applies at least the first 15 to 20 minutes, where the Union have been known a lot of the season to give up a goal. But no, I think the team wins. I'm going to give Montreal at least some credit. I'm saying 3-1 Union. I think there is a goal. I think that's what I've predicted previously, and I'm going to stick with it. No goal predictions.
Yeah,
but I'm going to say that Davo is in the at least in the.
Is he
roster,
getting a goal?
And he's going to get on the field.
Okay, that's
now, whether he gets
going to be on
goal
the field.
is another question that I'm not going to say, because we all know every time we say someone's going to score, they don't, and then when we don't say it, they do. So I'm gonna zip it on that one, but I think a 3-1 Union result.
Okay, all right. I'm liking what I'm hearing here. Eve, before we let you go, I wanted to ask, because we did talk about this before we aired here today. We were really happy to see all the Canadian teams back. In Canada. It had to be so hard. So no pun intended, but what is the impact of Club De Foot returning back home?
It's phenomenal. It feels like I came home, especially the first home match was that wild 5-4 comeback win against Cincinnati. And there were only actually 5,000 fans allowed in the stadium at that time.
Okay.
And that feeling that you feel when your team scores the winning goal after such an epic battle, and you know how it's you and every person in that stadium are feeling the exact same emotion at the same time, and it's that pure, unadulterated excitement and joy and kind of relief all mixed into one.
Yeah,
that I've been missing for 1.5 years. So honestly, it's fantastic to have them back. Unfortunately, the circumstances in Montreal with the vibe behind the rebrand and the division isn't ideal. But I think all the same, no matter what, the fans are pretty happy to see each other. And they're just happy to have a team on the pitch. And they're actually happy to see a project going forward.
Absolutely. We definitely love to see that. I will say, I, as a proud Philly sports fan, Montreal over Toronto any day of the week, by far.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
The Expo should have never left Montreal as well. That's about my love for Montreal there.
And LOL Toronto.
LOL Toronto. Yes.
LOL Toronto right now.
Great minds think alike.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Eve, where can people find your work and, of course, the beautiful podcast you guys got going up there?
Yeah, absolutely. So myself, I can be found on Twitter at EveJulia9, on Instagram the same way. The Ball is Round can be found at TBIR Montreal on Twitter. We post once a week, usually on Sunday evenings, and we can be listened to on Spreaker or anywhere that you find your podcasts, Spotify, and so on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Definitely. If you get the hankering to listen to some Montreal talk, definitely go check that out, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Eve, thank you so much for tuning in or hopping in.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to chat with you, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another episode of DOOP by the River. We got you the 2-for-1 deal here today. Guys, do not forget, if you're watching this on Philly Sports Network or on El Parcero Philly's YouTube channel, make sure to like the live and make sure to also subscribe to both those channels. And of course, just like the Balls Round Montreal, you can find DOOP by the River wherever you stream podcasts from Apple, Google, and Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Tim Lovinguth. That is Justin. Prez Sergio's Bald Fan Club Freiburg, the one and only. And of course, I go by the name of Ed Parcero Philly, and we're telling you guys to DOOP on. Talk to you guys in the next episode.